Hi, welcome to the very first episode of Two Historians and an Anthropologist, a podcast where we discuss the big and little questions about the human experience. In this, our inaugural podcast, we did have some issues with the recording equipment. So we apologize in advance and hope that you bear with us as the volume levels fluctuate throughout. Enjoy. I'm the anthropologist, Becky Floyd.
I'm the historian, David from David in History for the Ages, with my two wonderful colleagues.
Yes, and I am Vincent Romo, and I don't know, I go by the handle Alta Historian. I kind of like that one. That's my handle. And I'm the other historian. What kind of historian are you, David? Because that's usually the question.
All right. So if people already watch my stuff know I teach history of Western civilization, history of the Middle East, and I cover all sorts of stuff from ancient times to modern times, and that's kind of what I usually focus on.
What about you, Becky?
So I am an anthropologist and a thanatologist, which means that I'm interested in everything that has to do with humankind, but especially as it relates to death.
Oh no. Well, I'm kind of I was once dubbed the Swiss Army knife of historians. I teach World Civ, U.S. history, both parts, California history, Latin America, American West, but I really consider myself an economic historian, as someone who looks at things through the lens of economy in terms of revolutions, in terms of different types of movements and ideas and whatnot. So let's get started.
Cool. So what we want to discuss today, our first topic, AI and how AI relates to other events in history which have been revolutionary, right? And what kind of impact does AI may have on our society compared to some other past events in history. So we can really start with anywhere. I mean, for me, the big thing that pops to mind is the Industrial Revolution and how AI compares to that. Because if you study the Industrial Revolution, even at the time, there was a group of people known as the Luddites. You guys probably heard of the Luddites, yeah. Right? And the Luddites, you can use the term today, somebody doesn't understand. Equipment is a Luddite, technology is a Luddite, and because the Luddites hated the Industrial Revolution, they thought it would destroy jobs and destroy society, and they vandalized. And of course, there are people today who have those same fears about AI. Yeah. So what do you guys think? Is that going to be, what would you guys think? I'd like to know if you think AI will have a bigger impact in our society or the Industrial Revolution.
I'd like to start with the anthropologist because I have my own ideas on this.
So it's funny you should say that. My daughter was lamenting about AI and how it's, turning student work into what they call cognitive offloading. They don't have to think anymore and that kind of thing. And, she was railing against it, and she was sounding kind of like a Luddite herself. She's like, it's going to take over all of our jobs. And I said, Claire, do you know how many artisan weavers were put out of work by the industrial mechanical weaving, weaving machines? It is just how we adapt as humans through culture and technology and tools. And you end up doing some other kind of job.
What I would say to that, because I have the same thought, is that the difference between the Industrial Revolution and AI is Industrial Revolution made us less reliant on physical labor. This is making us less reliant on mental labor and imagination and creativity. And I don't know, I think for me this is going to be a bigger shock to the system than even an Industrial Revolution was.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more like the agricultural revolution, where you go from hunter-gatherer, where life is very difficult, to a life that is still difficult in some ways, at least at that turning point. But
now you're talking an agricultural revolution like BC 3000, BC,
like
Neolithic Revolution.
You're talking
all
like the Sumerians, and Mesopotamia, and
when these people started to settle.
Yeah, where you become permanent settlements, where you have seasons, where you have, start mapping the stars, and you need math to start keeping track of. I think it's going to open the door to like this Pandora's box of not only things like language, but law, different types of economic applications for it that will, because you hear a lot of these AI people talking about like that it'll basically replace the entire workforce. Like Elon Musk has said that it'll make it so we have basically endless abundance, but I don't see it as like endless abundance. I see it more as being able to apply it in a proper setting that will allow for things to become easier for us. But with that comes the challenges of bureaucracy and who's in charge of that bureaucracy. Does it make us smarter? Does it make us dumber? Because when I always reference back in U.S. history and I look at the founding fathers, right? People like Thomas Jefferson, much more well-read than your average 30-year-old now, right? And he's there writing the Declaration of Independence. I think he's like 33 years old or something at the time. And like the average 33-year-old now probably goes through their Instagram more than they've ever read a book of Cicero, Plato, or
So you get everything in
the Magna Carta, or any
10-second TikToks.
Yeah, 10-second TikToks, in, out, goodbye, see you later. And I think in a lot of ways, technology, we almost have too much information, and it's almost like process overload. I want to get your guys' reflection on something like that.
So one thing I want to go back to what you were saying about the agricultural revolution, that's kind of my area as well, is it took about 5,000 years for agriculture to take off. Humans started incipient farming 10,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age. And it took about 5,000 years for that to really take hold before it turned into cities and all of that. Yeah. Industrial Revolution took, what, a couple hundred years? Okay, this is taking months.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That one thing we've seen is the way technology, I saw this once, I forgot where I saw it, but if you look how exponentially advancements have taken place, how long did it take us to go from hunters and gatherers to agriculture to the Industrial Revolution to today to the computer revolution to AI, and AI where it is, it's just exponentially faster, and human nature hasn't changed.
It's like compounding interest.
And we're not, I don't know if human nature is capable of understanding how to do that.
And this is what I teach evolution. We're not evolved to handle this.
Yeah, we're still gorillas.
Well,
I am anyway.
But we're not. Our brains and our bodies are essentially the brains and the bodies that evolved 100,000 years ago. And what we're doing, the life that we're in, that's why we have so many health problems that we have physically, is because our bodies are not adapted to this lifestyle, this sedentary lifestyle, this food. Some bodies are better at handling it than others. Some populations are better at handling it than others. But in general, we're still cave people. And, and the pace of this change in this life that we're in, we're not evolved to handle.
It's kind of funny. It's like, how can I use this for war? That's like the
Skynet.
That's the same
I've
thing
seen
all
that
through
movie.
History, right? Like, okay, I got some obsidian now. Like, let me see if I can stab somebody with this. Right?
Well, it does seem to come after how can I use this to get food, and then how can I use this to defend myself and my family?
When there is no longer that need to go and get food, does it become an intellectual pursuit?
Then we play sports.
And that's a substitute of sorts, right?
Sports are, it is warfare, it is a symbolic warfare.
So what's the substitute when AI does all the thinking for
That's
us?
the great question. What are we going to do? What did we do with our labor when we didn't have to spend it, farming or working in factories?
It gave people more free time.
Leisure time.
It did.
So now,
we didn't have, you never could have had professional sports leagues.
So you can go rebel in the streets now.
Yay.
That seems to be what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Like 2020
People
was
are
a clear
too bored.
indication of that. I always thought, everyone's like, well, if we get UBI and we could all just stay home and we can do art.
Make sourdough bread.
As soon as the 2020 shutdown happened, I was like, oh, it's gonna get
riots.
On. Yeah. And sure enough, people ratings over toilet paper, protesting in the streets, and a lot of people didn't even know about many of the issues, and that's just human nature, right? Like in a lot of ways, I don't even blame a lot of people because it's like their wiring, and you know, it's happened in Roman times, it's happened in America's Revolutionary time. Like you lead people to the cliff, and it's almost inevitable that they'll jump.
And again, it's also human nature in terms of like people. If you hand something to them, are people going to just be lazy? I mean,
Right.
Are most people wired to be ambitious or not? There's going to always be people with AI stuff. I still want to paint. I still want to draw. I still want to do this. But there's going to be a lot of people who's like, I just want to veg in front of my VR thing and ignore the world because they're not ambitious. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to be creative.
Well,
And it's a miserable life, I would say. But it's what a lot of people might end up gravitating to. We're already seeing it with some younger folks today.
evolutionarily speaking, we are programmed to conserve energy.
But are we also not programmed to advance ourselves, to better ourselves?
No, we are programmed to have sex and babies.
Well,
And
no,
if it
but that's
helps
not even
us,
happening
no,
with
right?
Generation Z, right?
Well, so that's a good point. So if we're not having that, then we'll come to an end. But back to what I was saying, it's not about progress. It's not about advancement. It's about adaptation. It's about getting things that get you to pass your genes on. And so that's going to be sex and babies and taking care of those babies. So, but we are designed to conserve calories, to conserve energy. So we're not going to spend any more energy doing something than we need to. And so
And that includes mental energy.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
So we're in a world where we have produced all these labor-saving devices, and that has gotten us fatter and sicker, and now mentally, our mental health is suffering just because this is not what we are designed
But
to
would
do.
you say that's clear across the board? Because like for me, like everyone talks about AI as this thing that's going to do everything for them. The first AI program I got was, I think 2017, 2018, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
That was a bad learning language model. It wasn't good. I was paying $60 a month for it. And I'm like, but the potential is there, and I was really interested in it. As soon as I got like the better AIs in 2022 and forward, the first thing I thought is, how can I use this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like finding a spear in the desert and being like, well, now I can go hunt.
Right. So the first thing, I got an AI program that just did images a number of years ago, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. And it was terrible. And I remember laughing at the pictures, like, these are so bad. But one of the first things I used it for was to help me design stained glass patterns.
Yeah.
And then I went and made the stained glass. So
Awesome.
I used it to pursue my creative interests.
Yeah.
Because I have a drawing deficit.
So
So,
it takes care of that. And then you wonder about all these other fields in the future, art and literature. And I mean, if you want, I want to have my child read a book in Hebrew, and I'm like, I went to the library, there are no Hebrew books in the library. So I literally went to ChatGPT and I said, create a kid's story in Hebrew for a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, whatever, and it spat something out. Now, it was wrong. Mm-hmm. It had a lot of mistakes. And I think this is when I get into this discussion with folks like, is it all right for professors to use it but not students? And one of the things I tell my students is, look, I've been teaching history for 29 years. If I'm doing it, and I use AI for research at this point, instead of doing a Google search, I'll use an AI search. But the difference is when I read it, I don't just rely blindly, right? I say, show me the sources. And I can't tell you how many times I've had conversation on ChatGPT, and I've had ChatGPT tell me, oh, yeah, you're right, this is wrong.
yeah,
But
it'll
our
hallucinate
students
sources. They
do
don't
that.
know that.
They just assume it's okay,
Well,
They
and they
don't-
they
assume
haven't
it's
had
right.
the analog training, right?
Yeah.
Right.
They
It's
don't
like-
have
it's
the
like
the
you
life
wanna go
experience
play
to know.
Division I football, but you don't want to practice first.
Right.
And it's like you're in dangerous territory because
Yeah.
you're gonna get blindsided.
Yeah.
Somebody will find you and you will get clipped. So that's one of the problems with the students. I say learn how to do analog first, because then you could spot the errors, and then it becomes an assisting tool
Yeah.
instead of something that is actually commanding you, because you don't have the ability to actually do that. So, yeah, go
So,
for it.
I have, what do you think about this? What you just said reminded me of this. I've heard people say, wheat did a very good job of domesticating us.
Wheat?
Wheat did a
Yeah,
very good job of domesticating
that was
You
us
can mass produce it. it's easy to
because
create.
it is now so abundant.
Yeah.
And it was us that did that for it, but it is more abundant than we are. And so, yes, we domesticated it, but we make it happen.
Or did it domesticate us?
Or did it, well,
Yeah.
yes,
same
it
with
did,
rice
but
and same
people,
with
it's
any
like,
type of grain.
Yeah.
so if we can create this hyper dependence on, food crops by domesticating them, and it domesticates us right back, then is that AI? Is AI us? Are we domesticating
Yeah,
it, the
or is AI
technology, or is
domesticating
it
us?
domesticating us?
Well, I think that's applicable to almost all technology, right? If you like going to the moon, right? There's been a lot of discussion on X and whatnot about the moon landings were fake, and because we lost all the technology. But it's like one of those things. If you don't keep, yeah, I know. Yeah, they had this guy Charlie Duke, and they were just smashing on him. Like, leave the guy alone, man. He's an astronaut. He's an old man.
Did you ever see? Oh, it was funny. Buzz Aldrin. He had this crazy guy once chasing
Yeah,
him
yeah.
around. He didn't
Oh,
go to
yeah.
the moon. The guy
Put
just
your hand on the
smacked him
Bible.
on the head. It was classic.
But that's the thing too. Like if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
And I think that's happened with a lot of students, because like especially post pandemic, a lot of students, they can't speak in person. They're shy, right? Which is okay. I was
They can't
shy
look
too.
you in the eyes.
They can't look you in the eyes. They can't write.
Well, that was
UCSD just put out a thing that
math.
a substantial
Yeah.
portion of their students can't do math.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's been developing even before AI, just with the phones.
Right.
And I'll say this, one shift I'm starting to see because my kids are younger, is all the parents are like, we are not giving our kids social media.
yeah,
Because they've seen
no phone
what
in
it
general.
did. Yeah, but
or
it's,
even the iPad.
yeah, no.
It's at the point where it's like, okay, I'm not going to give you a crutch. Let's get you all analogued out, and then when you turn 18, have at it, because then you'll be prepared.
Yeah.
Like we aren't preparing students anymore as institutions, and what's eventually going to happen is our value we'll devalue ourselves.
I don't think it's eventually. I think
Well,
it's
know,
here.
well, it's
I think it's
already
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of institutions, right? The things like people used to say, if you get a degree, it's a segue into the middle class. But now the middle class is so unattainable.
And
Everything is separating so substantially, and the top and the bottom are getting so spread apart from one another. They're almost in different worlds. And I feel like AI is only going to exacerbate that, and it'll eventually turn to war. Because that's what, like, if you just look at human history, it's either the government buckles and you get a benevolent leader, and they said this in Rome, Plato said it, Cicero said it, every generation has already dealt with this. Now with AI, can you even lie anymore? You go on X and you go, this politician is lying. Hey, Grok, fact check this person. And it's instantaneous. So who's going to win that war?
Well, there's also another one. The AI is going to be able to create things that you don't know what's true or not true.
Right.
I could literally, you can already create an AI video of Vinny doing something notorious,
Yeah.
and then good luck, Vinny having to prove, no, I wasn't the one robbing the liquor store, right?
Right.
Oh, there's a video, you robbing the liquor store, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
It's
And
guilty
so,
until proven innocent.
there
Oh
is
yeah,
that.
no, we're at a point where I can't tell the difference sometimes between an AI video
Yeah,
and
that's
a real one.
So anything we watch, information we're gathering, we don't
I mean,
even know
even
what's
just
real.
looking at like the movies like Avatar and stuff. When I went to, I took my wife's grandmother who had dementia at the time. I used to take them to the movies because she loved going to the movies. So whenever they were in town, I'd take them to the movies. And I took her to Avatar, and she was just absolutely floored. Because to her, that was like a real
Right.
real world scene, right? And I think that moment of seeing her watch that, and I started to think, that's what AI is going to do for us.
Right. The kids don't have the basis of comparison
Yeah.
to know.
What it was like
And
before.
they're going to grow up in this world where they're not going to be able to tell what's real from what's AI, what's
Yeah.
made up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true.
But then again, they did say that about photography, and they said that about video and film. I don't
Yeah,
know.
this is a whole other level, but
I think it is a whole other level.
yeah.
All right, so how does AI change who controls information?
Who controls information? Well, at this point, anybody can control information, right? I mean, AI, anybody, I mean, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because the information coming out, is it accurate or not? That's the problem. It's like anybody can put anything they want out, put it out there, and then it spread, becomes viral, and good luck trying to put it back in.
Are we gonna get to a point where nobody believes anything or believes everything?
I'm already there. I mean, anytime I see anything, I don't know if it's true or not at this point, because
Yeah.
you just don't know.
I guess we'll kind of end with this, but like the difference between, are we in a rapture or a pattern of human revolution?
A rupture?
Rapture, whatever, same thing.
Very different things.
We're kind of like maybe all three. Which of the three? We got
Maybe
three choices
all
now.
three.
I think
Right.
it's going to be very individualized based on each person. Look, because I think at the end of the day, AI is going to do a lot of stuff for us. And as an individual, you make a choice in life. Do you want it to be the crutch that gets you through life and you just become just an amoeba basically doing nothing? Or do you use it as a positive tool to make life easier for yourself, but you still pursue the joy of knowledge and learning, find that positive purpose in life and enjoy life? Because it is a scenario where I think AI, quite the opposite, may not create wars, but may create everything we need for us. Where we don't have to worry about food, we don't have to worry about work, we don't have to worry about that stuff. And then, if you ever watched Wall-E, the kids movie,
Right, yeah.
does everybody just become sitting in those little
Blobs
devices and doing
and
that?
just-
There's no need for war in the sense that but we don't have a meaningful life. And
But
my
that's not
concern.
our nature, though, right? You know, like
It depends on the. You're right, because there's human nature, right?
it depends on the DNA, right? So I went through college. I played college football, and you're traveling with 100 basically 100 savages for 15 weeks a year. And we would wrestle for fun. We'd fight for money. You know, like just think of all the stuff like 10-year-old boys do, unsupervised, and with a little bit of money in your pocket. That's what we did.
Yeah.
Right? If there's bad things to do, we did those. The snowball fights, yeah, we're gonna go snowball fights till we're bloody, you know, like that. And I think with AI, what's gonna happen is the same thing. It's like we'll become idle,
Yeah.
and then we'll just figure out how to become Roman gladiators again, right?
Go
And go
riot
to
in
war.
the streets.
Or let's just take over the government. You know, like that's happened in every single scenario.
I think people will be too lazy to do it.
Well, I don't, it just,
Yeah,
well,
we're
and
too
well,
lazy.
politically, I think
Too
that's what
physically weak.
leads to this form of what we're seeing in the United States now is things are already too easy to get, right? And it's really easy to send information out there, and then you get the extremes of both ends.
Oh, yeah.
You don't end up with anything moderated because people are like, well, if I don't really have to worry about if I'm going to make money being salacious and wild, then I'll just be as
And you
wild.
got to keep up in the crazy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you want to keep getting people to watch, you got to. That's why you see this what we call the woke left and the woke right.
Right.
And they just get crazier and crazier because that's what people listen to.
Yeah, and most
Sad.
of us, I think, just kind of unplug from it.
Yeah, normal people in the middle.
But the people who actually go and vote and move policy, it's really only 20% of the population. 10% on one side, 10% on the other side, and it's a 51-49 split. And that's the scary part is because you can't appeal to logic. like Becky knows, I ran for office, right? You can't just say, hey, here are my ideas. Here's the great thing. It's like, how much money do you have? It's like, what do you mean? Like me personally? Or like, no, how much are you willing to spend for a $175,000 a year job? Are you willing to spend $500,000 to get that? Yeah. And it's like, that doesn't even make sense logically, right? Like you would think that like, I'm like living in the 19th century in my thought process because that's the way I kind of grew up, right? With books and not much access to digital materials and things like that. Like we didn't have cable for most of my life. So we were like very limited in what we saw and all of that. So a lot of things were left to our imagination. Now you can go and find people like you or people who are thinking your deepest, darkest thoughts and affirming them. And then what you end up with is like
echo chambers,
wildness and crazy. It's like,
and the social media wants you to stay in that echo chamber.
and they push it to you.
They push it specifically because they want you to stay on. So you're constantly getting that confirmation bias. You're constantly getting that, oh, I guess this idea isn't that crazy because everything I'm scrolling agrees with me.
So do you guys think you regulate AI or do you just let it play?
Well,
I don't think there's a way to.
I think
it's up to us. I don't
I
think
think
there's
that
It's like trying to
genie
regulate
out of the bottle.
the tide.
It's like, hey, let's regulate agriculture before
Yeah.
before they start building cities. It's like,
I think
no,
it's
it's
about teaching the best you can how to function in a world where it's not going anywhere.
yeah,
Because I don't think there's no.
just adapt, right?
Yeah. And
Well-
whoever adapts to it will, and whoever doesn't won't.
I try and imagine what, a person 5,000 years ago, farming in Mesopotamia, could not have possibly imagined that 5,000 years hence, that activity that they were doing
Would lead to this.
would lead to this.
Yeah.
They didn't have the capacity to imagine machines. And then the people in the Industrial Revolution didn't have the capacity to imagine personal computing and
Well, by the end of the Industrial Revolution, you did, Jules Verne, right?
Okay,
He
but
started to get. Now,
it was still very industrial.
but you know what,
It wasn't
even-
digital, but the digital revolution. So what I'm trying to say is that I don't think right now, I think where this is a revolutionary technology. And I think wherever it's going to take us, we cannot
can't even
even
envision where it's gonna go.
imagine.
So why try, right? Just kind of go
Because
with
we're-
it.
Yeah, we are
Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride. We're really bad at predicting the future, humans.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't
I'm pretty
think-
good at it. No, I'm just kidding.
I just think 100, 200 years from now, we don't even have the capacity right now to imagine what life is going to be.
Well, and in my classes, in history courses, people can't even imagine what life was like 200 years ago. They apply all their modern biases and feelings and emotions to
people from
to
20 years
people who are 250 years old,
have this constant struggle to
And it's like, what? No. Like,
This is a good topic for another lecture, though.
is.
Another topic, which
I
is
think
how
it's-
people look at the today, presentism.
yeah.
Right? That we look at things from the past and we use our standards today.
Yeah.
Well, I would have. No, you
We
wouldn't.
want to rip down every sculpture, and I tell them, well, then everything's going to be ripped down forever because things are always changing, folks.
Yeah, and then you'll forget, and then you'll just copy what they did
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Because you'll be like, this is a new idea, and really nothing in human history is like a fresh, brand new idea. It's always just built on something else.
nothing new under the
Thomas
sun.
Sowell said something like that, that every crazy, you study history because every stupid idea has been tried before.
It's already been tried, and it's already been case studied,
I do hope you enjoyed this discussion as much as we did. And if you want to connect with us individually and learn more about our projects, you can find David at David and History for the Ages, Vinny at Alta Historian, and me, Becky Floyd, at Deaf Education Central.